Hello class and welcome to this Zombies Ate My Neighbors walkthrough right here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Brigands. I'm your instructor, Professor Brigands, and we are continuing our entire month devoted to classes on some of the spookiest titles of the late 80s and early 90s. Zombies Ate My Neighbors is one of those games which is pretty much universally adored, owed in large part to its excellent simultaneous co-op and refreshingly novel premise, as not only do we need to blast a colorful assortment of zombies and other monsters with an equally colorful assortment of weaponry from squirt guns, bazookas, footballs, even tomatoes, but while we're doing it, we also have to rescue a variety of victims from cheerleaders, babies, dogs, tourists. The list goes on. There's also a variety of side challenges in many stages, and, well, there's a lot to this game, and we'll be covering it all. In terms of difficulty, Zombies Ate My Neighbors is a surprisingly challenging game. It's not too difficult to stay alive, especially if you play from the beginning of the game, and don't use passwords to jump ahead. I kind of liken it to Super Mario Bros. 3, where if you play from the start all the way through, you'll have a war chest of valuable items to make the more challenging back-end stages much more manageable. Now, what makes this game challenging is your secondary objective after staying alive yourself, which, as I mentioned, is rescuing the neighbors, at least one per stage, many of whom are in precarious spots and oftentimes cheap situations surrounded by an army of dangerous enemies. If you aim to rescue every single victim, like we'll be covering, this is an extremely challenging game, but taking a lot of factors into account and acknowledging you obviously don't need to save every single victim, I'm going to give Zombies Ate My Neighbors an 8 out of 10. On the frustration scale, this equates to writing a threatening letter to the developer, in this case LucasArts, who also made Maniac Mansion and Day of the Tentacle. There's actually a nice nod to that series, if you will, which we'll talk about in just a moment, but I find that the frustration level doesn't quite touch the frustration which you'll experience putting together a comprehensive class on this game. This is true. If someone asks me somewhere down the line, what's a game which genuinely surprised you at how long it took to put the class together, high up on the list would be Zombies Ate My Neighbors, as this one required a ton of testing, running this game over and over and over to come up with the best strategy and route for rescuing every victim on every stage. This is one of those classes where I can confidently say that this is the definitive Zombies Ate My Neighbors walkthrough. I guess it would be weird to say that sentence for any other game, come to think of it, but yes, Blaze is going to cover the weapons and items, Gary's got your boss beaters for the relative few bosses in this game, and Fluff has some interesting facts on the game to share with us, but the real value is in the level for level walkthroughs I've got for you, showing you the combination of the safest and most efficient route for both saving all of your victims and getting all the loot. At 48 levels, plus a handful of bonus levels, we've obviously got a lot to cover though, so by the way, we've got timestamps below for every single level, so check those out if you're having trouble with a certain level, but let's run the intro and get into this Zombies Ate My Neighbors walkthrough right here on Video Games 101. Alright, as we begin a new game here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors, the only decision to make at the top is decide if you want to play as Zeke or Julie, the guy or the girl respectively. There's no difference in how they play, it's just aesthetic. Do you want crazy hair and 3D glasses, or do you want a hat? That's the decision you have to make. I'm going to go with Zeke just because he's got the 3D glasses look. I feel like that's more apt for the horror movies that we're spoofing here, paying homage to, but let's take a look now at the controls for Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Pretty straightforward. You can fire and use your currently selected weapon and item respectively with Y and X, and then swap them out respectively with B and A. And you can also tap L or R to bring up your victim radar to see who's nearby, so you can rush over to them before one of the many enemies of this game just kind of walk up to them. Sometimes they'll die right away, sometimes the enemy rubs up on them for a little bit before they die, but regardless, you want to get to them as soon as possible. As we take a look now at the Briggs notes for the Zombies Ate My Neighbors walkthrough, the keys to beating this game. First, prioritize the most vulnerable victims in every map. Follow the most efficient route to preserve your health and items. I kind of lump these two together. alluded to this at the start, but I've run every level in this game so many times. The route I'm taking is pretty much the safest route for saving everyone, coming in at the right angles, which we'll talk about, and just preserving your items and your weapons. But might be the first class which has needed a second page of Briggs notes. Got the old standby of use Gary's boss beaters later on when we get to our first boss. And mention this in opening as well, don't use passwords as you cheat yourself out of a number of items which you can get early on in the game to make everything easier later on. And just be lucky as well, we'll talk about that moving forward. So before we move on to level 2, there's a hidden bonus level which we did not access, and the reason is you need one of 2 items to access it. And those items are very hard to come by in the first stage, but if you happen to find a monster potion or a bazooka, then you can blast through that wall and pick up the secret bonus level item, which will take us to our first bonus level, the only one which we're not going to be hitting in our run. This is Day of the Tentacle, reference to the LucasArts game of the same name, spiritual successor to Maniac Mansion, but go right at the start and immediately prioritize saving the 2 soldiers on the far right side. Start firing that squirt gun as you come upon them on your radar, as oftentimes a purple tentacle will already be closing in. Grab the bazooka and the key, then head north, grabbing another key and a squirt gun to the left if you like. Going north and diving into what's probably meant to be Dr. Fred's toxic waste dump to save the oblivious no worries pool guy. Grab that mystery potion to the right, then come in here and grab the baby. You can unlock that door or blast it or the wall in that crack spot with your bazooka. And then save this cheerleader and grab that skeleton key. Stay as high up as possible, as arguably the most vulnerable victim, which is your number 1, is barbecuing just a ways to the south behind the wall. Now we're going to exit back to the right, going all the way back around to where those soldiers were, then heading left and rescuing a baby on the far left side. Bazookaing through a couple hedges, and grabbing a first aid kit as well as a cut through to get a weed whacker earlier on than you otherwise would. Very useful weapon. Just like the bazooka, another weapon we wouldn't otherwise normally have this early. The weed whacker would have been effective against the plant and its spores in that north for what it's worth, but it would have been inefficient to go back and forth on the bottom to grab it. But now, return through the hedge passage and go to the right, unlocking that skull door and saving the girl on the trampoline. Quickly blast through this wall, save the teacher, and then cut to the left here to save this barbecuing guy before the tentacles get to him. Now we can relax a bit. The pool guy is safe if you don't count the radiation poisoning. It doesn't hurt him, but dive in and save him, grab the one up on the left, then head back into the house and grab some loot, including a couple keys. I recommend skipping until this point because they're just a bit too far left and would probably get that barbecue guy killed before you can go around and get to him. It's kind of the same principle as a recent class we covered in Clock Tower, where unless the person's on the screen and you're seeing them being killed, it doesn't count, it's not happening. So as long as the victims are off screen, off our radar for the most part, then they're generally safe. It's just about coming in and getting to them at the right angles. Maybe if you know that zombies always attack from the bottom left, then maybe you can come in from the bottom left and take out the zombies from behind. So just a lot of that going on as the best way to preserve all the victims. But moving back to our game in level 2, Evening of the Undead with Zeke here. So we get some bazookas here at the start, quickly helping that soldier. You think the soldier would be the one taking action and not a teenager or however old we're meant to be, but I digress. So if you do happen to lose some victims, you have 10 at the start of the game. Obviously one of the objectives is to keep all the victims alive, but if you do happen to lose one or more of the victims, there is a way to get them back. And while it's still relatively calm here, it's only level 2, you don't need a whole lot of strategy. Let's bring in our resident fact finder Fluff to share some information on how we can get our victims back here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Every 40,000 points you earn here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors, at the end of the level you cross the latest multiple of 40k, you'll earn yourself an extra bonus victim to replace one of the ones you've lost. While you can set up in areas where weak enemies like zombies spawn and pick them off for 100 points per, a better way to earn yourself points is through bonuses. There are a number of bonuses you can get here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors by fulfilling certain objectives. While there are specific bonuses you can earn on certain levels, which I'll cover once we get there are possible bonuses which are always in effect. For instance, Saving all 10 victims on a stage earns you the 1,000 point all victims saved bonus. Playing with another player and saving more victims than them earns you the you saved more victims bonus, which is also worth 1,000 points. Speaking of two-player mode, it's worth noting that you can earn 2 bonus victims if both players cross that latest threshold by the end of that stage. If you cross a 40k point multiple by the end of a stage and have 10 victims, you'll earn yourself an extra life. If you cross a 40k point multiple by the end of the stage and save all 10 victims and already have the max of 6 lives, you'll earn yourself the perfect player bonus, which grants you an extra 5,000 points, which is nice for working your way to that next 40k multiple, at which point you might need that extra victim. Again, there are other bonuses which are dependent upon meeting certain objectives on certain levels outside of saving victims, like the secret bonus which earns you 2,000 points if you find the bonus level pickup token, but I'll begin to cover the other specific bonuses later on when we reach those levels.
Thank you very much, Fluff. Looking forward to that. Love this Pee-wee's Big Adventure inspired zany piece of music right here. Whole soundtrack is fantastic in this game. Fluff will come in a bit later and give credit where credit's due in terms of the composer, but been picking up a lot of weapons to go with improve upon our initial Squirt Gun. So let's bring in Blaze to talk about that Squirt Gun. Before we do that, I want to point out that there's a pair of tourists, the tourist couple in the northeast side, which we want to drop on quite quickly because these Tommy the Evil dolls move very quickly, in case you couldn't tell. Yeah, once you get up there, make a straight line for them in the northeast corner of the mall. But Blaze, how about that Squirt Gun?
It's Blaze's best here in Item Sky. Alright, the Squirt Gun. Apparently filled with holy water, I guess. I don't know, that's how they sell it, but anyway, this is the default gun, which we start out with. Every ammo pickup is worth 99. You have a max of 999. You'll hit that very easily in this game once you begin favoring other guns over this. It's not a bad starter gun, but you need to be very accurate with it, and it's not always easy to be accurate with the speed of some of your enemies, but fires out very, very thin shots of water at your enemies. So if you learn how to master this thing, then good on you, but yeah, relatively weak shots. Not my favorite, but there you go. Gotta start somewhere.
Thank you very much, Blaze. Our arsenal's coming along, though. We got some produce, got some silverware. Bringing Blaze to talk about some more of the weapons a little bit later, but moving on to level 4 now. This is a great opportunity to test out our red potions we've been picking up, and we'll bring in Blaze to talk about all the items in a little bit as well. But you can see this allows us to turn into this monster, which allows us to smack through the weaker looking points of these hedge maze walls right here. This makes getting around a little bit easier. So this is the track I like to do, rescuing that victim down to the left first. Grab yourself another potion there. Mostly just like to ignore the chainsaw guys. They'll just slow you down with what we want to do right here. I'm just trying to make a nice opening for myself and then start from the northwest corner of this map. Just makes getting around quite a bit easier moving forward. But anyway, as we come over here to grab ourselves a couple bazookas in this hidden area here, sort of hidden, let's bring in Fluff now to tell us about some bonuses we can earn here on level 4. Just follow along. Fluff?
There are actually 3 bonuses we can earn here on level 4. First, if you kill all the Stanley Decker Chainsaw Maniacs, you'll earn the Chainsaw/Axeman Begone bonus, with it being the latter in the censored European region, worth 5,000 points. This bonus also applies to levels 34 and 46 by completing the same objective on those levels. Next, we have the No Bazooka Fired bonus, which is pretty self-explanatory. Just don't fire your bazooka to earn 1,000 points at the end of the level, though admittedly this one's a bit tricky considering how useful the weapon is for carving a path through the hedges. This bonus also applies to levels 16, 34, and 46, as well as level 22's bonus level. Lastly, there's the Massive Destruction bonus, which earns you 2,000 points if you, or the chainsaw guys, destroy most of the possible hedge openings on the stage. This one also applies to levels 34 and 46, giving us an idea of what we might expect on those levels much later on.
There you go, lots of opportunities here. And you see we use the fire extinguisher on the chainsaw guys. It's very effective in slowing them down, but also maybe doing some extra damage. Blaze, how about those fire extinguishers?
Alright, the fire extinguisher. This is kind of a sneaky, underrated weapon right here. Doesn't really do the damage, but freezes enemies when you get a shot off on them. The more shots you land on the fire extinguisher, the longer they will be frozen. You can use this time to buy yourself some moves, get to safety, save some victims in some cases. The professor will talk about that, but also worth mentioning, when enemies are frozen, they take half the damage they would normally take to take them down from other guns, so something to keep in mind. It's a good strategy in a lot of cases. Freeze your enemies, then put in the damage with a different gun, but yeah, every time you pick one up, 99 ammo, another max 999, but there you go, the fire extinguisher.
Thank you very much, Blaze. You can see we get ourselves a password right here. You get a new one every 4 levels you complete, and occasionally after a bonus level as well. The problem with the passwords, and the reason we recommend one of the Briggs notes not using them, is that they don't save your progress. It just lets you continue on the stage, so you don't have any of the weapons or items that you had at that point. So yeah, that's again why we had one of those as the Briggs notes. The later you use one of those passwords to start later on in the game, the more of a disadvantage you're putting yourself at when it comes to finishing the game. I could say you could probably jump in maybe around midway through the game, around the 24th level or something like that, and still complete it more or less okay, but I wouldn't go too much farther beyond that. But just the same, there's your level 4 password, or level 5 password, I suppose better said. Gonna follow a kind of spiral path for the most efficient route for this one, just clockwise around, then moving into the middle to rescue the final few victims, ending with a pup. See, we could easily take down these clones of ourselves with our basic generic squirt gun. Much easier than trying to take down those chainsaw guys before. As Blaze mentioned, yeah, the fire extinguisher when he was talking about that, very useful, not just for freezing enemies that might otherwise be ready to attack one of your victims you're trying to protect, but also allows you to take them down with half the shots, so extremely useful. But switching to our relatively new weed whacker here, and that's the way to get through a lot of the obstacles on the ground right there, things which are popping up and growing and will otherwise do damage to you. You can use those again, bazookas on doors, on these cracks and walls. They double as a key when you use them on a door in that sense. I like the victims who are safely behind the walls of a house, especially ones which don't have open doors or anything like that. Those are the victims who are relatively safe in most cases, but having to reach into our bag of tricks many times over to go through and access all these different areas. Even after playing this game for as many hours as I have, I still overshoot the gun or the item which I'm trying to get to, time and time again. Just can't help it there, but I want to pull up one of our med kits now. They give you more than enough, especially if you start at the top of the game. My strategy is typically not to engage with the enemies, just to avoid them for the most part, unless they're actively threatening one of my victims, in which case, then you gotta do what you gotta do. But yeah, just in the interest of getting in and out of each of these stages as quickly as possible. Doesn't lend itself to earning as many points, obviously, but again, if you're keeping most of your victims alive, and again, if you start at the top, there's more than enough med kits to go around, and there's that end of stage pup right there as we reach the center. And we just hit 40,000 throughout the course of this stage, so as Fluff mentioned, we should get ourselves an extra life here, since we have all of our victims still. There we go. Looking good. More shocking than level 5. Level 6, Pyramid of Fear. The weed killer works very well on the mummies in this stage, actually. Just takes a couple hits. There's a few secret shortcuts through here. Once again, we're going to kind of take a wide circle around the map before moving inside. Going counterclockwise this time. Note that you can open up these jars and these mounds of dirt against the wall if they're large enough. Sometimes there'll be a secret shortcut through there. Sometimes you'll find an item. Sometimes you'll get that purple monster which does 1 damage to you, but you can always get that no matter what you're opening. Garbage cans, cabinets, and houses. All the good stuff. There's a little cut through right there. But Blaze just talked about that Weed Whacker. How about it?
Alright, the Weed Whacker gets my award for Weapon of the Game here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Might be a little surprised. I think the Weed Whacker is very undervalued in this game. What's not to love? Every time you pick up a new ammo for this, it's worth 300. It's actually worth more in some cases later on, as the professor will point out, but yeah, this attacks very quickly, and that's where its value lies. Get right up on your enemies, and assuming you can be just a little bit accurate to get them in your crosshairs, or whatever we're working with that Weed Whacker. Just get up close, dispense a ton of damage to take down even the tougher enemies very quickly. Love the Weed Whacker. Don't sleep on this one. My weapon of the game.
Thank you, Blaze. Yeah, I love the Weed Whacker, especially late in the game. That's one of my go-to weapons. It's relatively easy to conserve ammo because you only use it when you're relatively certain that you're going to make contact with an enemy up close and personal. And of course, yeah, 300 per with every ammo you grab, but let's grab this final Explorer back here. And an Ancient Artifact, another great weapon, which we'll have Blaze discuss in just a moment. But we are moving on to our first kind of castle stage here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Fortress, castle, lab, however you want to describe it. Level 7. Dr. Tongue's, there you go, Castle of Terror. Music has kind of a shining feel to it, but use your speed shoes finally here at the top, and then collect these 3 Taurus very quickly, sticking to this line right here, as you have about 10 seconds from when this stage begins to when they turn into werewolves, which means A, they're lost in terms of victims you can save, and B, they're very dangerous enemies in the werewolves. The Ancient Artifact is very useful in this stage for taking on Frankenstein's monster, as well as taking out those werewolves. And Blaze, how about that Ancient Artifact?
Alright, a very close runner-up to my weapon of the game, the Ancient Artifact. Makes you practically invincible, save for when you're dealing with bosses in this game, but just hold down that attack button, get next to certain enemies in this game that take them down in a single hit. Others, it's the fastest way to take them down, like your Frankenstein's monsters and Dracula's. This is the way to take down a lot of enemies in this game without putting yourself in any risk. Every time you pick one up, you get an extra 30, so yeah, its ammo can be a little tough to come by with this, so don't go ahead and use it all the time. Get a nice stock supply for yourself for use later on in the game. You'll thank past version of you. But yeah, the Ancient Artifact, an excellent weapon here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Yeah, pretty much guaranteed invincibility as we cut back. There's a lot of secret areas here in Dr. Tongue's castle. And there he is, drinking some potion and then blowing up, disappearing. But if you want to take out Frankenstein's monster, just get in close with that Ancient Artifact, and let's pound ourselves a med kit there. Lots of goodies though. 1-ups, med kits, we got some Pandora's boxes. Doing pretty good in the Weed Whacker department right now. And I forgot it in this run, but if you go southwest and just hug that bottom left wall, right where we left the stage right there, you'll find yourselves an alien gun, which we saw in the Day of the Tentacle stage earlier on in the game, actually, which, again, we didn't have in this run. So we're 0 for 2 on that relatively rare alien gun, but just want to point out that's where that was. But we're coming up on our first boss here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors. So let's go to our resident boss expert, Gary, for tips on this one.
It's Scary Gary's Boss Beaters.
This big baby can be attacked in a number of ways. Unless you want to get into a slugfest where your probability for landing shots is very low, go down to the bottom, right where there's no victims at risk. The baby will transition between fast and slow speeds as he shoots around in diagonal motions. When he slows down, he'll generally start to fire his bottle at you. There's a sweet spot between his shots, as you can see, at which point you can attack him by angling diagonally up, and depending how precious you want to be with your Pandora's boxes or bazookas, this can take a few seconds to a few minutes. That's the strategy though. Repeat this as necessary with your weapons of choice. You can see the approximate numbers on the screen of roughly 100 Squirt Gun shots, 10 bazookas, and 5 Pandora's boxes. You can mix and match as well, obviously, and spread around the ammo, but note that the baby will back up after you've landed anywhere between 5 and 10 shots. Repeat this process, take him down.
Thank you, Gary. Might mix it up a little bit here. Might work in a Pandora's box. Yeah, it's all about that tiny little adjustment once Big Baby comes on over and slows down to do those milk bottle shots at you. There you go. That's all it took there in the end. And we got ourselves a skeleton key. And just cleanup duty at this point, pretty straightforward. So let's bring in Blaze now to finally give us an overview on the many items which we've been picking up here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Alright, let's talk the items you'll find here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors. So aside from the points-based items like coins, you have keys, which are good for opening doors, and treasure chests in some cases, although the bazooka doubles as a key in some cases for opening doors, or destroying doors, better said, so don't have to be too precious with those keys. Then we have the skeleton keys, much rarer. There's not a lot of doors which require these in the game. The professor will teach you when and where to use these, when to hold on to them in some cases. The first aid kit is next. This refills your health in full on demand. Make sure you use one of these when you're at 3 health or below when there's one of those jelly blobs around, as they will fire off those jelly attacks. If those land on you, you'll be immobilized and take 3 damage, so always have at least 4 health when one of those enemies is around. But there's your first aid kit. We have the decoys. These, you can put down 3 of these at a time. These attract enemies away from you and the victims for roughly 15 seconds, or until they destroy them. They'll go down very quickly with some enemies versus others. We have the monster potion. This turns you into an invincible beast for roughly 35 seconds. You think you'd be a bit tougher, a bit stronger, dealing more damage just based on that beast's physique, but not the case. Still, invincibility's nice. And we have the ghost potion. This turns you into ghost for roughly 25 seconds, which for our purposes means you don't take any damage. You can't give any damage either. You can also unaccountably walk on water. I guess ghosts float, so alright, I talked myself into it, but worth mentioning, when you use the ghost or the monster potion, you can't bring up the radar, and it'll take the radar down, so you can't see where the victims are relative to you when you got one of those potions going. We have the random potion. This is a random effect, could be first aid, could be a monster potion, the ghost potion, speed shoes. You could lose health, lose control of your character for a limited amount of time. Speaking of those speed shoes, this doubles your speed for roughly 15 seconds. Very useful for getting to the tourists in some cases before they turn into werewolves. And then lastly, my item of the game here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors, the Pandora's box. This seeks out and kills multiple weaker enemies on the screen, but very good for using in a pinch when you can't get to a victim in time before a zombie or other enemy gets to them. Use this as your panic button right there. Also useful on some bosses in some cases, but I'll defer to Gary for that. But there you are, the basic items you can pick up here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Thank you very much, Blaze, and note the bonus level pickup item which we got behind that garden wall there, the hedge wall at the top of the stage, taking us to the bonus stage of Mushroom Men. And Fluff, actually, there was a bonus we could have grabbed there on level 9.
You can earn yourself the weed cutting bonus, worth 1,000 points here on level 9, if you destroy a ton of weeds during this stage. Weed whacker ammo is generally pretty abundant, and you might find you earn this one without even trying to get around. This bonus also applies to the subsequent bonus stage, as well as levels 11, 26, 36, and 44.
Thank you, Fluff. Yet another use for Blaze's weapon of the game in the Weed Whacker. And as he mentioned, this applies to this stage as well, that bonus. Once you get into the mushroom area up top here, this is where all the goodies are. Already got a Pandora's box, ancient artifact, extra life, another Pandora's box. Yeah, a lot of good stuff without a lot of effort. Love the bonus stages. Easy to rescue most of the victims in these stages as well. But moving on now to level 10, where we got a whole mess of the evil dolls, the little guys which move fast once they get in a line with you. And then, mention this, but yeah, if you take them down, sometimes they'll come back in that flame form. They'll hang around. Just roll the dice, so be ready for that. Fire Extinguisher obviously does the trick in that case. But lots of walls in this stage. I have the Bazooka handy. A lot of places to cut through, either to get some loot or just a shortcut through and save your victims a bit more safely. You can waste a lot of bazookas on this level if you don't know where you're going, so stick to this counterclockwise route from the start. There's some good loot here though on this stage, mostly in the form of 3 first aid kits. Yeah, they'll pop out of nowhere. That's the problem with the evil dolls. They'll just kind of warp in right next to your victims, so gotta be on your toes. The soda's good when there's not really any victims in danger, but want to toss one over a wall. Actually, Blaze, how about those soda cans?
Alright, the soda cans act as kind of the grenades here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Great for taking down enemies on the other sides of walls, and well, that's pretty much it. That's the main thing, because a lot of enemies are coming straight at you. Their grenade's not the most practical weapon, but still. Gotta take down an enemy on the other side of a wall. Go ahead, reach for those hand grenades, by which I mean the soda cans. Guess someone really shook these things up before they gave them to you, but yeah, there you go. The soda cans.
Cleaning up with them right here, but yeah, coming back as the flame baddies. Not too dangerous until they get in a straight line with you, and that's when they start coming after you. Those axes aren't a whole lot of fun either, but that machine's just churning them out right there. Still working our counterclockwise way around the board here. Another weapon which we haven't talked about yet, kind of referenced it earlier, but those tomatoes, Blaze.
Alright, the tomatoes are surprisingly a relatively rare weapon here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors. You wouldn't think so. They're kind of bountiful at the start, but they dry up pretty quickly. Not a big deal though, they're not all that powerful. Take down the weaker enemies with a single hit, but don't go that far. Have to be pretty accurate when you throw one, but there you go, the tomatoes.
Thank you, Blaze. Don't miss the first aid kit down here. That's certainly worth a key in my estimation. Like how the door appeared on the right side of that wall after we saved that last victim in the pair of tourists there. But moving on now to level 11, which is kind of a breath of fresh air, at least from the perspective of someone trying to teach a class on this game, because it's just one big open area. The victims are never in any real danger, and they're very easy to find as well. There's even more than enough weed killer to go around, with 3 total to be found to get through the stage, with more than you started with, especially if you're efficient. They like to hide items behind these pod plants. There's a weed whacker ammo right behind this one here. You can see we just grabbed 300. You don't have to take down the pod plants to get the item which they're covering up, but it can be safer sometimes. Sometimes you might accidentally touch them as you're trying to grab that item. Just swinging around wide here. There's the second one, and the third one is going to be just a bit northeast from here. Right there. And then don't miss the potion right there. And the final victim. My kind of level. Love it. Moving on now to level 12. This one is a bit annoying between the aliens and the football players. Stop me if you've heard that one before, by the way, but The aliens can be defeated with a single squirt gun blast, but there's a lot of them and they keep coming and they move very quickly. And again, as Blaze mentioned, obviously the shot from those squirt guns, it's very narrow, so you have to be kind of accurate or get some help from the aliens themselves walking into them. The alien ship will fly in from time to time to try to zap you and can zap the cheerleaders if they're close, so be careful. You can actually earn a bonus, which Fluff will talk about in a second, but yeah, with the chaos of everything else going on, football players smacking you around, which doesn't do any damage, just smacks you around, and a never-ending supply of aliens, I prefer to focus on the task at hand. Note that if the cheerleaders get shot by the aliens' bubble guns, just like you, they'll be trapped for a few seconds, but in their case, you can actually run up and save them once they've been shot, if you get to them fast enough. Otherwise, they'll die if you take a little bit too long, but they're going clockwise here for the most part. I find this is another level where the radar really helps to let you know how close you are to the nearby victims, so you can deal with the aliens and clear out the immediate area before you unnecessarily put any cheerleaders at risk. It's one of the few stages where we exclusively have cheerleaders to rescue. Here in their natural environment, or certainly the most natural environment of any place that we've been to rescue them so far, have seen them, certainly more so than a chemical plant or some of the other spots. Despite the fact that they're worth the most points at 1,000, they're the most frustrating survivors to save, or victims to save, because they time those jumps perfectly so that as soon as you get to them, they jump up in the air, so that there's that split second, gives time enough for an alien or a zombie or just whoever, evil doll, to run up on them and just stab them before you can get to them as they touch back down again. The hitbox is the one thing which I can nitpick in this game. You have to be very precise when you're trying to save a victim or grab an item or even do damage to one of your enemies in a lot of cases, depending on the weapon. But how about those bonuses for that stage, Fluff?
Like level 4, there are again 3 special bonuses you can earn on this stage. Technically it's 4 if you count the fact that they replace the normal all victims safe bonus with the lateral 10 cheerleaders bonus, which is also worth 1,000 points. But first we have the Alien Invasion Repulsed bonus. At 9,900 points, this is tied for the best bonus in the game in terms of value, but it's one of the hardest to achieve, as you need to successfully toss 10 soda cans into the spaceship's hatch during the brief times it's open. Maybe save this until after you've saved all the victims before trying it, but this one also is in play on level 21. The bonus for pass completion is worth 5,000 points and is earned if you successfully throw 10 footballs to 10 football players on the stage. This one applies to the penultimate level 47 as well. Lastly, and this one's a bit odd, but instead of housing a secret bonus level pickup, simply saving all the victims on this level earns you a bonus level, not to mention 2,000 points.
And that's where we are right now, thank you, Fluff. It's only possible to get this level if you beat the last one with all 10 victims. This one's not too bad. The key is to start fast and just make a nice clockwise loop around the office to save everyone and collect some loot. About a minute into this level, werewolves begin to appear. I like the fire extinguisher for freezing them, and most of the enemies I run by as I loot, grab everything, save the victims. The faster you can get through this one, the better, with those werewolves jumping around. Aside from a ton of keys, there's a few notable pieces of loot. Against the right side of the map here, going top to bottom, you got a bazooka, first aid kit, and a random potion. Also, don't miss a Pandora's box when you're getting close to the end of the loop in the southwest part of the map, right here. But yeah, with the werewolves' quick and unpredictable moveset, you can get punished for being too greedy and getting every last key and points pickup, so you have to prioritize the victims above all else in the end. Got our first vampire coming at us. Oof, that's why I love the fire extinguisher. Speaking of the werewolves, Blaze, how about the silverware?
The fork and the knife are a bit more powerful than the plates, and actually, as you might expect, silverware can take down the werewolves with a single hit, so have those handy if you need to take down them if you're being swarmed by some werewolves. But otherwise, similar to the plates, might want to hold on to these as many as possible for later on in the game, taking down some of the bosses and some of the more dangerous enemies as well, like the snakeoids, but just something to keep in mind for later on in the game. The Silverware.
Thank you, Blaze. Yeah, another one right here I don't mind, here in level 13. I like the less mazy, more straightforward, not to mention smaller boards, and this is definitely that. Just the pup at the start, so scoop him up with the key and the squirt gun refills. I like going around the checkouts on the left, grabbing the decoys, the baby, then another decoy, the soldier, and a couple bazookas. Head up and grab another squirt gun. You should be good on the squirt gun department at this point, but yeah, save the teacher and the tourists, and head down and left to save another pair of tourists. Got more of the chainsaw-wielding hockey mask guys here. Clearly conflating Jason Voorhees with Leatherface here, but yeah, they're actually more helpful than dangerous, in this stage especially. Might give them a shot with the fire extinguisher after they cut through a shortcut path for you. Careful with the two cheerleaders in the northwest areas. There's a lot of zombies, so with a bit of bad luck they can get to either one of them first. Grab that last teacher if you haven't already, then a bit of loot in the back room in the form of a key, first aid kit, and the final victim in the cheerleader, not that she's loot. A popsicle and a key and a relatively rare ghost potion, so grab all these in the gratifyingly subdued back area before you head out. On to level 14, 7 meals for 7 zombies, lots of parodies on classic Hollywood movie film titles, but gotta start fast on this one, otherwise we'll lose some tourists. Also recommend queuing up a Pandora's box to save an explorer here in a minute. So grab the first 2 tourists, and then pop up here to grab this one. Now we're gonna head southwest and grab the explorer and the tourists down here. Now we want to have these Pandora's boxes handy and use one as soon as you see the explorer appear in the northeast corner of the screen when you're rescuing this other explorer. There you go. That is a tough one to save right there, with zombies coming in from above and to the right of that explorer, but yeah. That's the most reliable way to save him. It's still, that goes back to those Briggs notes, one of which was be lucky. Sometimes you can't control situations like that, and it's a flip of the coin as to whether or not the zombies are going to be in a spot where you can get them with the Pandora's box in time or not. So we got lucky in that case. Now we can relax, grab some loot. There was a bit of treasure back there. That's why I like to save that explorer in that little tiny alcove earlier, because if we wait when we're grabbing that loot, the zombies will come around by then. They tend to get more aggressive as the stage goes on, most of the enemies do. And there's some loot back here at the start if we cut down here in the right spot. Some good loot down here, including a Pandora's box. And now we just need to go down to the southeast corner to save one last explorer who doesn't seem to be affected by standing on a bunch of spikes. And then finally there's a baby near a key in the south central area of the map. Let's go down here and get this explorer first. Going back to this 4-way intersection here, and then cutting right this time. Seems like there should be something up there, but there's not. And there he is. Yeah, I feel like that would be painful, but thankfully it doesn't affect him. I guess he's been through this before. And then finally, the baby up here with the key as mentioned. So that's how you clean sweep what's one of the first very difficult stages to save everyone. And it's pretty much impossible if you don't have the gear which you need. Or in this case, the Pandora's box to save that one explorer I pointed out. And there's that perfect player bonus which Fluff mentioned, as we just hit, I guess, 16 or 160,000 during that stage, and saved all the victims, have all the lives, but dinner on Monster Island. Not a ton of loot to be found this time, not counting cabinets you can raid. One notable exception is the skeleton key on a tiny island in the southwest corner of the map, which we'll be using later on in the game. First order of business should be to save those tourists, though, in the northwest from your starting position before they turn into werewolves in about 30 seconds or so from that starting time. And we're doing pretty well in the first aid kit department, staying ahead of the curve, you know? Keep grabbing more and more of those. There's that one chainsaw guy who, a good place to rack up some points here with all the zombies which pop out. If you need to farm to get a victim back, usually 1 or 2 good spots in every stage. Love a good find right there from a cabinet in the Pandora's box. Get the pup here on the corner. And some more fire extinguisher for our cause. It's one item which is very infrequent. Doesn't show up a whole lot, and Blaze didn't mention it, but it's the burgers, which you'll find. I think it's on like 3 stages in this game. You can find the burgers. Not too shabby right there. Didn't run into any of the squid men, or forget what the manual refers to them as. The Gilman of the Blue Lagoon, aka Brooke Shards. Little Blue Lagoon, Brooke Shields film reference right there in that one. Level 16 ants. We have the debut of the ants on this stage, and Fluff's going to mention a bonus we can get here in a bit, but yeah, the ants like to grab the items which are just sitting out there and run away with them. The bazooka on the left right there sometimes gets snatched up by an ant. It's a coin flip as to whether or not it'll be there once you get there, unless you care enough to use a Pandora's box on it to kill it. Come back here with that. I think we grabbed it. But just move around in this clockwise spiral as we're doing. But eventually there is a place to bazooka through, which I like to do, which is right down here at the bottom after you grab that key. So cut through there and go to the right, and then cut through here. Come down and rescue this explorer. Then head back to the north. Have a Pandora's box handy. Sometimes that teacher is about to be attacked by an ant, so be ready to pull that trigger in that case. I guess she's always about to be attacked by an ant on this stage. It is called Ants, the level in general, but that's pretty much it. Just going down to rescue her now and swing around the rest of the clockwise loop here, ending up back in the top left. But one weapon in particular is very effective against these ants. Blaze?
Alright, the alien gun. Not a lot of opportunities to pick this one up in the game, just a few of these to actually pick up. Not all that useful though, you're not missing out on too much. Traps enemies in a bubble, but very effective against the ants in particular for stopping them with a single shot, but there you go, the alien gun.
Thank you, Blaze, and I love the ancient artifact for just cutting through them without even stopping as well. It's good for that. I mean, the ancient artifact's good for everything, let's be honest, but yeah, the Weed Whacker's good too for just cutting right through those ants, assuming you line up with them properly. This is the hardest level we've had so far, especially for saving victims. If you've still got all 10 coming into this stage like we do, there's a very good chance you'll lose at least 2, if not 3. Having the Pandora's box ready is a must, but at the top, pop those speed shoes on and bazooka north. Use the Pandora's box when you see the teacher and baby to hopefully clear the evil dolls out, and quickly run to the right of the baby to save what's normally the 10th victim. If you're down the 9, the most difficult to rescue tourists and victim in general to this point is southeast of that area. Genuinely, I've run this game many times, and I've never been able to save the 9th tourists, as there's just too much mental gymnastics in switching items while trying to save everyone else. They just change into werewolves too quickly, so yeah, if you get close enough for them to start werewolfing all over, put them down with a bazooka and carry on to the northwest, keeping those Pandora's boxes primed for use on evil dolls to save the explorer in the corner. Then head south, saving another baby and another explorer, and yeah, it's a bit more relaxing from that point. And you can hear them changing right up there, the tourist into the werewolves. So now it's just probably yeah, get out the Bazooka for a single shot right there, or the Ancient Artifact. But, yeah, with all that out of the way, it's a bit more relaxing, relatively speaking, at this point. Especially on that western side of the map. So I think we're down to 9 right now, assuming we save this last one. Some good loot here, though. You can see there's an Ancient Artifact there. Plenty of keys all over. There was a first aid kit. There's a monster potion in the northeast. Right next to you can see there's a secret level item in the northeast as well. So we'll make our way up there. Yeah, that's where just to the south of us, that's where the tourists which turn into werewolves start from right there. Just too difficult to get to them. This bonus stage we're about to grab, though, with this item, this will be a nice chance for us to get our 10th victim back. There is a bit of a hack here in this game which takes advantage of the SNES's limitations, where basically you have so many enemies chasing you before you get to those tourists, and then essentially the tourists can't change into a pair of werewolves because that would be just too many sprites on the screen at once, essentially. So they stay the tourists so you can actually grab them. So just through an exploit. I mean, that part of the game is pretty cheap as it is, so we got our 9 victims right there. Just lost that one, which is extremely difficult to grab, but we move on now to our bonus level to make up for it. We're about to hit that 200,000 mark, so this is a very easy one, actually. This is a nice and calm level compared to what we just experienced. And for our purposes, a chance to get back to 10 victims. They're all lined up right here at the start for the most part, with no enemies around until you get to this area. It's the flame versions of the evil dolls. There's a very specific path you can take here to get all the loot here in this bonus stage. Just follow this route right here, mind the lava, obviously. Just a little bit of backtracking, but you can see we get ourselves Pandora's box. Got a first aid kit up here. Almost enough space to hit the top right there without having to go down and around. Got a 1-up at the bottom right there. And then work our way back to the door now. But that's the loop for grabbing all the loot here. Relatively calm. I like that. I'll take that any day. Just, yeah, put all those victims in the same area. And now we should have enough points with 200,000 and a clean sweep otherwise to get our extra victim bonus. Or extra bonus victim, excuse me. So we're now back up to 10, so for all you perfectionists out there, Squid Men of the Deep. Start fast here and save this cheerleader, then the tourists, and then come down around to the south to save this pool guy right here. Can kind of bait the squid men to come after you down that way. Still, a little bit of luck goes into this one, but hang to the right here to avoid the victims on the left. And now our first use of the ghost potion right here. As Blaze mentioned, we can walk on water, so follow this route right here to get the most out of this potion to save the remaining victims in one very efficient, clean sweep. No items to worry about in this stage for the most part. Go up and around to grab this pool guy, just blissfully unaware of the chaos unfolding all around him. Yeah, those squid guys will just come from underwater. You can see the bubbles and just make a beeline to those guys in their pool floats and quickly take them out while you're still midway through your jumping into the water animation. So, yeah, the ghost potions are essential for some of these water stages. But level 19, this one's not too bad. Nightmare on Terror Street. We have 38 seconds before 4 sets of tourists will become werewolves. But if you prioritize them going clockwise from the start, you can get to them all no problem. If you're efficient, you can even grab some stuff en route to negate the backtracking, like the Weed Killer and Speed Shoes through the hedge early on. Right there. There's also 2 pairs of speed shoes and a first aid kit worth grabbing, all total in this level. So some decent loot to pick up. I realized though that I mentioned Fluff had a bonus to tell us about back on level 16, and there was one on 18, so I'm dropping the ball here. Fluff, how about you go in order, give us 16 first. Oh, there's those burgers, by the way. Each one gives you 3 health back. I'm sorry. Fluff?
So on level 16, you can earn yourself the Extermination Bonus of 1,000 points by killing a ton of ants. You can earn this one again on level 32. Wonder what kind of enemies we might be up against in that one. And also, don't forget, the No Bazooka Fired bonus is once again in play on this stage, as I mentioned earlier.
Thank you, Fluff. And how about level 18 as well, the one we just cleared?
So on level 18, the Fish Fry bonus is on the table for this one, as you'll earn yourself 1,000 points if you kill a lot of those pesky squid men. This bonus also applies to levels 33, 35, 38, and 40.
Thank you, Fluff. My mistake. I'll try to keep on top of that moving forward. Note the cut through right there in the hedge. I like it. Sneaky. Trying to think of what weapons we haven't yet covered with Blaze. How about the plates? Haven't covered that, Blaze.
Alright, the dishes are surprisingly one of the more powerful weapons you can get here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Very useful against some of the later bosses in the game, so if you don't need to use them, go ahead and opt for one of your other weapons and kind of save these for later on in the game. You never know, you might end up needing them when your other weapons become sparse later on in the game, but yeah, there you go. The plates, kind of relatively rare pickup here in this game. Hold on to them.
Good advice. Thank you very much, Blaze. Good loot there at the end. And that was a very good shot with that bazooka, if I do say so myself. Clearing out, like, a couple werewolves, a whole line of zombies. Very satisfying. So we're back to our 10. Been back to our 10 for a couple stages now, but still feels good as we are on to Invasion of the Snakeoids here. These are nasty baddies. Your best strategy is to pound a monster potion. What better way to take on a monster than becoming a monster? Can't beat him, join him? Wait, no, that's not. That doesn't really apply here. Just beat him up. I mentioned earlier how the hit detection is a little bit off. That was my one little nitpick about this game. I find that you tend to do more damage when you're the monster in this case if you kind of move into your target. Now, if you keep pushing up, you'll probably walk past the snakeoid once it goes back down in the ground, so you have to time it up so you're only pushing up when it pops out of the ground like that. But yeah, it's kind of strange. Just a mystery of Zombies Ate My Neighbors, I suppose. But yeah, for whatever reason, just tend to do a bit more damage seemingly, or maybe it just counts more hits as you're pushing up into a lot of the enemies in this game, depending on which gun you're using. But kind of the same case with the ancient artifacts when you're using them against a vampire later on in the game. Just looks so angry as he's walking about. Can't use the keys though when we're in monster form. We can pick up the keys, but yeah, can't use them until we revert back to good old Zeke. Some decent hidden loot though here in level 20. Some hidden passages to find it, but yeah, it's kind of a weird layout in general, and then one last snakeoid to take down at the end of the level. So while we're finishing up, cleaning up here on level 20, Fluff, how about you give us a Fluff fact about Zombies Ate My Neighbors?
Zombies Ate My Neighbors is a 1993 run-and-gun title developed by LucasArts and published by Konami for both the SNES, which we're playing, as well as the Sega Genesis. In case you were curious, the protagonist names are Zeke and Julie, and the game is obviously a send-up of monster movies, horror films, and otherwise B-movies of previous decades. As the professor mentioned in opening, this comes from the same developers in LucasArts who were responsible for Maniac Mansion and Day of the Tentacle, and there's a nice nod to said tentacles in that early, kinda difficult to access bonus stage like the professor mentioned. The game was universally lauded across the board for its premise and sense of humor, visuals, soundtrack, and excellent gameplay, which extended to its simultaneous cooperative feature and has seen a number of re-released ports in the decades since its initial early 90s release. Speaking of the zany soundtrack, it was composed by Joe McDermott, who was one of the musicians on George the Fat Man Sanger's team. Sanger, who produced the soundtrack, was the man who composed the soundtrack to the aforementioned Maniac Mansion in the NES version, as I mentioned in our class on that classic. The game received a 1994 run-and-gun sequel also for the SNES from LucasArts, called Ghoul Patrol, which runs on the same engine, and the engine was reused a couple times again for LucasArts' 1995 action titles Metal Warriors and Big Sky Trooper, both of which included a lot of the same development team as on Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Anyone play any of those, by the way?
I have not. I know that Ghoul Patrol is relatively popular, and it was bundled with this game on more current systems, and yeah, you can grab it in a bundle. I think that's how a lot of people play this game today, actually, as we take down that final Snakeoid. But yeah, leave a comment, class, if you're familiar with Ghoul Patrol or any of those other games which run on the same engine. You can certainly see it the most in Ghoul Patrol out of all of those, but thankfully, we don't have to wait till the potion wears off to enter the exit stage right there, the exit door, I should say. This should just take us over with our bonus here in the end. Another perfect player bonus there. Some more points for the cause. And our password for level 20 right there. BXBS. The Day the Earth Ran Away, level 21. This one is extremely linear and narrow. Grab the two victims immediately to the north at the start, otherwise the rest of the victims aren't in too much danger, honestly. If they do get shot by aliens, remember that you have a few seconds to get to them still, while they're in that bubble before they die. We can grab one of their Martian Bubble Guns in this stage finally. That'll make up for the one I missed back in level 7, which we showed. As well as the one we didn't get in the Day of the Tentacle, which, yeah, just the probability of getting a monster potion or a bazooka from the trash or one of those cabinets was just too low, so. But we showed it, you got to see it. Once again, we can do the soda can alien invasion repulsion bonus. Or I think it was the 9,900 points if you throw 10 soda cans into that open hatch in the spaceship. But there's the gun right there. A couple first aid kits to be grabbed as well in this stage, all total. But yeah, just gonna be skipping that alien invasion repulsion bonus once again. Just want to get in and out of the stages as quickly as possible. It's like a trip to the grocery store, class. We're not trying to dawdle here. Just get what we need. Ooh, love a ghost potion right there. Get what we need and get out again. You see we have a victim to the northeast here and then one south of us. Grab those bazookas and the soldier. You can see the limited range on those alien bubblegum shots. And want to pop back up here and grab a first aid kit in the northwestmost corner, which I forgot. Now we can take off. Almost. Aliens have other ideas. Yeah, our weapons and items collection is coming along quite nicely. Quite happy with it. Feeling pretty good. Another reason, I mean, that is the reason to not use passwords. You'd have a tough out with those snakeoids if you didn't have any equipment at that stage in the game. The scary sequel to level 7, level 22, Revenge of Dr. Tongue. This one is very frustrating, mostly because the location of two victims and a teacher and a baby, either of which can die very easily depending on how you approach it. First grab the keys and head inside, grabbing another key to the right. Go left and down and be ready to shoot a zombie making a beeline for that explorer. Go through the wall here to grab yourself an ancient artifact and some loot. Deal with that werewolf with your method of choice. Bazooka, silverware, weed whacker, ancient artifact, it's all good. Grab this explorer here. You can push back those curtains to grab yourself some loot. We can put out the fire here to pop back here and grab this key. And you can push this curtain aside to Find yourself a little hidden area in the back. That's how we cut through. I just wanted to check that chest though. This is still the best route to take here, so I want to come down and around from the top down to the bottom here. Gonna deal with these werewolves if possible before we get too close to the dog. Thankfully the clones are more interested in us than the dog right there. There's a baby down there too, but again, the only real threat down there, unless the werewolves get involved, are those clones. Let's weed whack our way through here. You can see there's a pickup in the top left here, so we're doing just fine on that. Coming down. Those clones go down with one shot from pretty much anything, so. Alright, save the pup and cut through here. Save the baby here. You don't want to be on the outer wall, as some threats can get to that baby if you're coming in from that way. But we're going to lure down Frankenstein's monster away from the victims we have northwest of here, and then take him down in this relatively safe and open area. Using our ancient artifact, just trying to get right up on him there. Now we can pop up here and rescue the baby and the cheerleader. Just had to be very careful with that Frankenstein's monster, but that's how you play that. And before we leave, we're going to use our skeleton key. We can save it for something which is not as good later, but recommend using it here. Grab the bonus stage token, but then if you cut to the right, you'll find yourselves the rarest weapon in the game, one of one, the Flamethrower.
Alright, do not miss the single pickup in the entire game of Zombies Ate My Neighbors. That is the Flamethrower. You get 400. Cherish it. Save it for the bosses later on in the game, as Gary will cover, but yeah. Very powerful, as you'd expect, the Flamethrower. Tempted to make my weapon of the game, but with there only being the one pickup for the entire game, had to give the nod to a different weapon, but still. Very useful, a game saver late in the game. Hold on to this one. There you go, the Flamethrower.
Yeah, not the practical everyday use weapon that is the Weed Whacker, but yeah. Definitely useful against some bosses later on in the game, as Gary will mention, as Blaze mentioned. But armed with your bazookas here in the bonus stage, save the first round of victims at the bottom, then duck in the lower left corner once you get to the open area up north. Same strategy as Gary mentioned, as we have another big baby here. Just stay in the corner, position yourself so that you're aiming up and to the right. There's no diagonal animation unless he's firing the weapon, but yeah, makes ensuring that you're set up properly by sight alone difficult. But yeah, when that baby slows up in the corner to attack once again, just slightly adjust to thread that needle between the shots, and down he goes after just a few shots from our bazooka. Very powerful, even against the big baby. So there's a pair of Taurus on the left which just turned into werewolves. You literally can't get to them no matter what you do, which you might say is kind of cheap, but the big baby acts as the 11th victim, so in a sense we still saved our 10 victims on this stage. So actually we've saved 9 so far. The 10th is a one-off here, and I guess Dr. Bug just dancing around. Worth a cool 10,000 there. This wacky bonus stage. And there's also a bit of loot behind the 3 doors in the bottom right of this area before we check out. Well worth it. First aid kit, ghost potion, Pandora's box, alien gun. All in all, a nice bonus stage, if I do say so myself. So level 23, there is very little loot or endangered victims to work with this time. One exception is to start early, heading northeast and saving the soldier before a relatively rare squid man pops out and gets him. As you'll see right here at the top. The Caves of Mystery. Yeah, right there. Then I recommend heading northeast and going down through a tunnel, following the train tracks to save an explorer down here. Be ready with a first aid kit since, again, you can get slimed for 3 damage down here from those jelly blobs. I keep wanting to call them slime enemies or just something along those lines, but for obvious reasons. Yeah, then just counterclockwise, loot more or less. Aside from a couple bazookas next to victims, there's a Pandora's box behind a wall, which opens if you touch it. Careful grabbing the last 2 southeast victims with the occasional squid men in mind. But not a bad level. Blaze, you got speaking of the jelly blobs, you got a weapon that's good against them?
Alright, the popsicles. Who doesn't love a refreshing creamsicle? This is one of the few items which is effective against the jelly blobs. This is the one which can take them down with a single hit, actually, so keep that in mind if you're trying to take them out. Make the screen a little safer as you're traveling about, but yeah. Otherwise, yeah, not too effective against the more powerful enemies, but yeah. I don't think anyone's expecting to take down Frankenstein's monster with a popsicle, or several, but there you go. Keep that in mind with the jelly blobs.
Thank you, Blaze. Level 24. Warehouse of the Evil Dolls. At first glance, this seems like another annoying maze, but thankfully they drop us in a corner so we can proceed through it relatively linearly. But more importantly, we should have lots of bazookas by now to create some shortcuts to get everyone, so follow this track right here. There is one chainsaw guy around the middle. Once you start to go south, you'll start to see and or hear him cut his way to you. I like to lure him farther north, then ditch him as I go back down south to ensure that we don't have to worry about him chasing us and threatening the many victims we still have to save down there. There you go. Nice and trapped and irrelevant, just how I like my chainsaw guys. Yeah, otherwise mostly just lots of evil dolls to contend with on this one. Note that now that we have the Flamethrower, using it on one of them will guarantee a flame enemy every time, for what that's worth. Certainly not condoning using any Flamethrowers prematurely. Note you can go through the box and the wall right there when you see a crack, like we just saw. It's also a place to use a skeleton key down south, which gives us a monster potion and a password for starting with all the victims for the next level, but we don't have one because we spent it earlier on the far superior bonus stage and Flamethrower, so take that every time. And there's the door right there, but yeah, it's the easiest decision on where to use a skeleton key in the history of gaming. Flamethrower is that good, as we'll see later with some of the bosses later on in the game. Gillum, right there, the password. Huge discounts on level 25. Look who's shopping. I enjoy this stage, but parts can be frustrating if you don't know what you're doing. At the start, continue up the escalator into the north area to save the cheerleader quickly before the jelly blob gets her. Then head back down and position yourself a bit down and to the left from the bottom of the escalator, where we'll post up to battle another big baby. This one's frustrating because we've got giant ants coming to mess with us on and off at any location. So unless you want to waste a bunch of bazookas, you've got to switch back and forth between them and your ant killer of choice, which for me is the weed killer. You can use that alien gun as well, but get enough of those angled shots off on the baby, and as usual, he'll shrink down to leave us another skeleton key. We can redeem it here on this stage, but all we get is an extra life, so I recommend holding on to it. We're not going to redeem it for the heights which we got from the Flamethrower and that bonus stage before, but still. After we do take down the baby, you want to make sure you have some Pandora's boxes handy, or the fire extinguisher, as the victim most at risk is the soldier to the left, right there. And yeah, those ants can get to him very quickly. Some free keys and bazookas in that area as well. Watch out for the ants running away with them. This one's not as in much danger. He's behind the pit right there, but go up and grab him. Some extra weed killer behind the glass right here. Now we can head up the southern escalator, sticking to the bottom and going right to get some silverware, but also bazookaing a wall to get a first aid kit. Find the ant when you grab it. Here we are. There's a baby here if you follow around the other way. It's kind of tricky finding all the victims on this one. This one's a little sneaky over here to the left. After you grab him, go back down the escalator and go left, saving the trampoline kid, and jumping southwest to get to the area where there's a victim and a couple burgers for refilling your health right there. Got the fry cook. Still working, man. He's a pro, that guy. All this chaos breaking out, still doing his job. It's like Seeking a Friend for the End of the World, if anyone's seen that. The kind of TGI Fridays scene. Take the other trampoline northwest to get some speed shoes and go north to save a teacher and blast away on the right to get yourself a monster potion. Right through there. It's kind of tricky as to where you want to fire at that. I guess the onions in that case. Now exit out and enter the next area to save some tourists, taking down the evil dolls with your method of choice. And then just the final victim is one last teacher after that. They're safely behind the counter right there. Before you leave, don't forget to go down the escalator and grab a mystery potion and a ghost potion behind a couple glass displays right here. And yeah, as that guy whose name escapes me said in Magic Carpet 2, this has been a profitable stage of your journey. We cleaned up pretty well on this one, I have to say. Love that perfect player bonus, and went way beyond the 320,000 point on that stage, so definitely cleaned up. Level 26, where the red fern growls. Not the red ferns grow, but this one's all about just knowing the best route to keep everyone alive without danger or even having to use any Pandora's boxes. From the start, rescue the tourists and stay on the ground level and cut to the left with your weed killer. Got the hidden mystery potion right there behind the pod plant, but yeah, save the cheerleader and the explorer, then head back east to the start. Grab that weed killer refill just to the south of that start, and then head up the stairs, go up, and then down the stairs to rescue another cheerleader and a baby. Making sure you grab the weed killer refill just south of the baby. Now we're going back up the stairs to the left and down, and then left at the intersection. Saving the tourists. Now going south to grab a first aid kit and explorer. Not necessarily in that order when there's zombies lurking about, obviously. Now we're going to go north until you find some more stairs. And then go down them to save some more tourists. Then north to save another explorer. At this point, just head east until you hit a wall, then south to save the last victim and a pair of tourists. And that'll do it. These final tourists are actually covering up a weed killer, so it's a good end point to refill or even top off your weed killer on your way out of that level. Always good to keep on top of that ammo count, with that being Blaze's weapon of the game. The Costner level, Dances with Werewolves, level 27. This is another one where the order and angles you approach victims from makes a huge difference. A lot of trampolines set up for getting around, but this adds to a bit of delay in terms of getting to your destination. And there's a couple instances where this can cost you. I'm going to stay to the right here to keep the baby to the left off the screen, save that cheerleader, and save the girl on the trampoline. At this point, you probably have a couple werewolves on your tail, so line them up and bazooka them just like that. However you want to take them down. Bazooka through the hedge to the west to save that baby we kept off the screen a second ago. And go around and cut through there to save that cheerleader. Blasting to the west to save... Oh, did we lose that one? No, we're okay. Alright, yeah. Power of scrolling right there. Maybe they didn't want to hurt their own kind in that case. That's what I'd like to think. Choose to believe. And then grab that key after everything is relatively calm. Now we're heading back to the area where that little girl was trampolining. Recommend waiting for the werewolves to be on your tail and clear them out before you try going up there to save that cheerleader because of that lag like I mentioned. You can blast through here to grab yourselves a 1-up. Love that sound they make when they die. It's not the one you would expect. Actually, whenever we take damage and our character cries out, I can't help but hear Bart from the episode where he gets that tattoo removed. I think it was the premiere, but...
Ow! Quit it. Ow! Quit it.
Yeah, pay attention next time we take damage and tell me that's not what you hear, but... Level 28, this is a tough one. At the start, pop your speed shoes on and zoom up to grab one pair of tourists to the right, then rush back to the left and go up this time, unlocking a pair of doors and rescuing the second pair of tourists before the 8 seconds, yes, 8 seconds runs out, and they turn into werewolves. After this, we can take a breath and start working clockwise, more or less. There's actually one more pair of tourists in the northeast, making this another one of those glitched, or better said, completely unfair levels, where it's literally impossible to save all 10 victims, unless you glitch out the game like I mentioned earlier, just featuring more enemies on the screen when you approach them than the system can handle, thus preventing the game from allowing them to duplicate in the 2 enemies, but we're not going to mess with that, mostly because it's too costly and difficult to pull off, and we've got a great run going so far. Once you get to the east side of the map, get those ancient artifacts out and quickly run for the explorer, then use the artifacts to take care of the werewolves. Couple artifact pickups on this stage, which is good because I like to use a lot of them near the end of this one. Keep going north where you'll find the aforementioned tourists have turned into werewolves. They're victim number 9 for those keeping track for what it's worth. You should have picked up 2 skeleton keys by the time that you get back to the 9 o'clock position on the west side of the screen. Climbing the stairs to grab a 3rd. Use that artifact on the vampire there. Go through the wall and you'll use these 3 skeleton keys in quick succession. At this point you probably got 3 vampires on you, so yeah, save that cheerleader in the open area, and then move a bit left and go to town on those ancient artifacts to take out the vampires. You can let them live en route to popping down the stairs and grabbing some points and another skeleton key, but behind that final skeleton key requiring door is a cheerleader and a baby behind a couple locked doors, and yeah, those vampires can easily kill them. And I hate to lose another 1 or 2 victims after the cheap one the game forced us to lose earlier, so... Another hidden alien gun, and a mystery potion around this final area to make sure we grab before we move on. By the way, I keep referring to the victims as numbers sometimes. The numbers for the victims are fixed, so if you've got 9 victims, number 9 is always going to be that set of tourists. Number 1 is always going to be, so-and-so victim on that stage. So they're not random, in other words, the locations of where people appear. It's all relative to how many victims which you still have alive going into that stage, and they're all numbered. 1 through 10 in that sense, but anyway, doesn't really matter when you're going for the perfect sweep like we're going for right here, outside of the glitches, but anyway, this one's a bit of a maze. This is one of those levels where I definitely recommend having the radar up so you know when a victim is close. Save that guy in the pool, and yeah, I find if you wait to save the guy in the pool, there's a much higher probability of him getting attacked by squid men, so yeah, just one of those things where the enemies get more aggressive as the stage goes on. Grab that weed killer though, and just start cutting through. Grab that first aid kit we got. Save that baby and go all the way to the top to save a cheerleader. Looting the place, yeah, just can't not hear Bart. And yeah, I think that was the premiere episode, the Simpsons roasting on an open fire. Ow, quit it. Every time. Blow through here. Grab some cash if you like, then northwest to go through the door and save the baby. Grab the speed shoes, go south and unlock the door. Blow through the wall here. Save that soldier who's freaking out. Grab a bazooka. Carefully rescue the teacher. Being wary of those evil dolls who can spawn in that room with her, actually. Yeah, gotta be careful with those axes. A little bit of luck right there, but grab yourself a monster potion down there, save the cheerleader. Grab yourself a burger. Gonna cut west, go through some locked doors to grab ourselves a first aid kit and a Pandora's box down here. Even when I see the open door, I'm already pulling out that bazooka, so not the most efficient, but then again, we've got 60-some. That's, again, more of the allure of playing from the start. You don't have to be too precious with your ammo stockpile around the midpoint of or any point in the game for the most part. Last teacher right there. Check the trash can if you like. And let's bounce. Level 30 is another oops all cheerleaders right here. There's some loot worth picking up. The Horror of Floor 13. From the start, quickly destroy the evil doll to save the 2 immediate cheerleaders and grab the line of keys. Quickly blast the southwest wall and proceed farther to rescue the cheerleader before spiders begin to appear. Now we're going to double back to where you started and head northeast to save another one. Note that you can bazooka through the window to climb out onto the gutter / kind of roof area and blast through another window to grab some loot, including more ancient artifacts. Very dangerous, but then again, it's par for the course in this world. Gonna head back through the original window and unlock a couple doors and go left at the top to rescue another cheerleader. We're gonna head east to unlock another door to save another cheerleader. Alright, after we save her and go northeast, you want to go slow, having your Pandora's boxes ready, and be ready to fire as, yeah, spiders will spawn in this cheerleader room. We got lucky there, yeah, it's, that one's pretty nasty, pretty unfair a lot of times, so. Sometimes you gotta be lucky to be good, as they say. Never understood that phrase until I played Zombies Ate My Neighbors, so. Just blasting through and saving these last couple cheerleaders, getting ourselves invisible potion right there. Ghost potion, I should say, better said. Everyone seems to know where we are when we drink that potion. They just can't do anything about us. Lots of cabinets we can still check, but, yeah. I mostly just assume we quit while we're ahead and move on. Not a big fan of the evil dolls, in case you couldn't tell. Got me treed here. You think one shot of the squirt gun would take out those flames, but not the case. Not as effective as that fire extinguisher, as you might expect. Another perfect player bonus as we pass 400,000. So level 31, the only real victim at risk in this level is a baby northwest of us who's parked right next to a guy with a chainsaw. About those censorship policies, Nintendo, but anyway, from the start, go into the house above to get a first aid kit, then exit and go right around the hedge to save a less vulnerable baby. They don't dawdle because, yeah, there's a squid man around. Grab the fire extinguisher. Bit of a hint maybe as to how we're going to save the other baby. Backtrack now to the start and follow the coast down and around to save a teacher. Then head hard left through the graveyard and up to save a cheerleader. There's a different chainsaw guy roaming around here. He might help you or be a nuisance, as is usually the case, but yeah, note when you pass the hedge wall, there's a bazooka hidden in the hedge above you. You grab that right there. Then navigate around or blast through the hedge to the north to save a cheerleader and a second unrelated lower risk baby. Then head north and get that weed killer out to save the lone explorer on this map, along with scooping up a couple keys in this area. Continue east and bazooka a couple enclosed shrub areas for a mystery potion and another first aid kit. Now back to the area we used the weed killer on, after we grab the first aid kit up here. So get that radar up if you don't already have it out, and get your fire extinguisher ready. You'll come down to see a chainsaw guy on the right next to a baby to his left. He's too powerful to take down with the Pandora's box or reliably with any other weapons to kill him, so we just freeze him right there to save the baby, and then pop down here and grab the burger guy. At this point, the last victim is in a pool float to the southeast. I'm sure squid men are an issue sometimes, but I've never lost him, so just dive in and grab him. And there is... I'll lure him around here. Can I get you interested in... There you go, get you out of the water. Yeah, something about this lower pond being isolated. I don't know, the squid men just aren't interested in it, but we'll happily take that. But that's a perfect example of a stage or an instance where, yeah, the fire extinguisher is the right tool for the job. Don't try wasting time trying to actually attack the enemies in that case. You'll just end up losing your victims. So freeze them, save them, move on. Level 32. As much as I love weed-whacking giant ants, the Alien Bubble Gun, now that we finally have it in our game, is the weapon of choice for this level. Especially at the start where there is a very difficult to save explorer. So here's how to do it, or attempt to do it. Line yourself up with the second from the right line, just start firing, and yeah, you can see how quickly that ant was moving in to take out that explorer right there. That is a very difficult victim to save here at the start of this level, but now we're going to work left to right here, following the road, just blasting these giant ants. Don't worry about being too precious with the Alien Bubble Gun ammo. We will not need it for the for most of the rest of this game. It's mostly effective against these ants, so this is what we're using it for. Let's pop down here and save this explorer. Got some skeleton keys to grab in this stage. Go east through the desert, getting a regular key, and stick to the southernmost area to save a baby. Head back left following the cactus line and grab a skeleton key in between them. Probably taking some damage as you do, and continue right. Got another one in that little shack right there. Now return back to the cactuses and head northwest to enter a tunnel Rather than unlocking the skeleton door, first go out here to the left. Go around to save those tourists and grab another key, the final skeleton key for this level. Now we can go back, pop these doors open, and there's the more difficult red ants. They have a much more frustrating moveset, but they still thankfully go down with a single shot from this gun. And now we gotta come out here to actually get our exit door. And you should finish this now with the same number of skeleton keys as you arrived with, which in our case was 1. So, still holding on to 1. XJQY, or password to get to level 33 here. Without the setup that we've got, obviously. Fish and Crypts. This one is sneaky difficult because the spawning nature of a group of mummies and squidmen next to 2 victims makes it too unpredictable for my liking to get out of here clean, so I recommend using a pair of speed shoes at the start, quickly driving northwest to rescue victim number 9 before a mummy can get him, then going southwest and through a hidden wall up and north to rescue victim 2, who, unless you're very quick, will practically always get killed by a squid man who Air Jordans out of that water to land right next to him, so. My best advice is to not get distracted with weapons or trying to kill the squid man. Just walk straight to the victim and collect him, and then, yeah, once you do that, you can go through the rest of the level a bit more leisurely, grabbing that bonus level item we grabbed to the right of that victim, and there's a couple Pandora's boxes, a couple ancient artifacts to be grabbed. Doing pretty well on our first aid kit count right there. Every time we got to use one, I take a look and thinking, yeah, we're doing all right now. Doing all right across the board for the most part. While we finish out this level, let's go back to Fluff to get another Fluff fact about Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Fluff?
We just covered Monster Party in last week's class, and I mentioned in that class how in the unreleased Japanese version, the title screen featured blood dripping from a monster's jaw, but its color was changed to green to represent some kind of nondescript ooze in the North American version, once again to adhere to Nintendo's censorship policies. This same principle is on display here in the SNES version of Zombies Ate My Neighbors on the Game Over screen, as the quote-unquote blood which slowly covers the screen is purple. This is compared to the Sega Genesis version, which features blood in its conventional color of red. Still, that's relatively tame compared to when the game was released in some regions like Europe, where the game was renamed the single-worded zombie without the whole cannibal angle in the title. I covered this in our sort of miniature recent class on Probotector, but in Europe, and the especially content-sensitive Germany where Nintendo of Europe was located, violence was heavily censored in Nintendo games, even by American standards. Hence the change in title, and even the replacement of the chainsaw-wielding enemies with axe-wielding enemies. Speaking of the Genesis version, you'll note that the Genesis version rethinks the screen's layout and puts your current weapon, item, health, and even the constant map over the screen so that it's not obscuring anything, it's over there on the side. The game also allows you to remap your controls at the top as well, which is a nice feature if I do say so myself. Speaking of nice features which didn't make ours, or better said, well, any version of the game, LucasArts planned to include a battery save system in the game, but ultimately deemed the battery as being too expensive, so they unfortunately nixed the idea. That would have made this game a lot easier in so many ways, Professor.
Certainly would, thank you, Fluff. So right there, make sure that you use that Pandora's box pretty much as soon as you see those feet moving above you. That is one of the most dangerous victims in general to rescue in this game. And while you can go to the right from there, I find it's easier to save the northeastmost explorers. This is Oops All Explorers in this one, if you approach from the bottom here. So just be ready with your Pandora's boxes. Might need to use one on this one to the right, which we just saved as well. You saw the mummy closing in, but right here, there you go. Probably wouldn't have gotten to that mummy in time otherwise, depending on the weapon we were using as well, but it's a lot safer to approach from that way versus coming in from the left. Then the one on the right is most at risk, or the one up above as well. Just, yeah, it's a coin flip as to where the mummy's going to go there, so Pandora's box is the move. But yeah, it would be a lot better if they had a save system to record your progress to a T, you know, all your ammo and all that good stuff. Even just having a more complex password system to make sure to keep all your progress intact. And now we don't like putting in strings of 20-character passwords, but for the sake of not having to play this game through in one sitting, you know? But anyway, this one's not too bad, just about controlling the movements of the lumberjack, by which I mean the chainsaw guys. Keeping them focused on you rather than the victims. There's a couple skeleton doors on this level in order to get all the victims, so we'll have to pick up the keys as well, but this is the route right here. I like to go this route so that I'm at the top of the board and approaching the baby that's near the lumberjack or chainsaw guy from the right here in a second. This is the most vulnerable victim on this level, all things being equal for me. Granted, the chainsaw guys are always a bit of a wild card, but don't want to come through? It's a little glitched out. Why are you going north instead of... Weird. Trying to get you to do the work for me, big guy, but... So coming up this way... That's not the baby I'm referring to. That one's safely kept behind a skull door there. It's the last one we have not behind a door, over here to the left. So yeah, coming in from the right allows you to lure the chainsaw guy over to you. Then you can just do a little loop here, and then, because he's around the bottom way here, but yeah, otherwise he'll make a beeline for that baby if you try coming in from the left or the south, because he'll be a bit closer to that, and that'll just kind of trigger him to go that way. So in my experience, that's the safe path for rescuing that and all of the victims here in this stage. I never use the decoys. I'm sure a lot of you watching are thinking, you're sleeping on the decoys, Professor. Gotta be using those, but yeah. Like I said, mostly just avoid a lot of the threats in this game, which you would think would mean I would use more decoys, but they have their place now and then. I think the problem is there's usually a more important item to have in that item slot, and I hate changing between items or guns if I don't need to, if I don't absolutely need to. But level 35. This is another instance of getting to a victim before you let too much time elapse, which seems to increase the odds of enemies being near him. At the start, grab that first aid kit through the wall, then backtrack and go outside to rescue a baby on this island here. Now go back to the dock, go north and go east, across the pier and south onto a trampoline. Then jump right one trampoline, then right to land right next to the pool guy. This is the victim I was referring to, as I find if you rescue the other people in the immediate left half of the map before you get to that pool guy, the odds are greater that the squid men will be more aggressive and be right there to get to him regardless of how you approach it, whether that's trampoline, jumping from the dock, even using a ghost potion. Actually, they can still get to that guy, so. But now that we've swept the left side, pound ghost potion, stick to the north and go right here to rescue those 3 victims right there. The baby here, and then last but not least, in this boat, the teacher. And it just, yeah, it's a must-have on this stage, the ghost potion. You're bound to lose some victims if you're trying to tread through the water or just transition in and out of the water. It just takes too much time to get to some of those victims, so the ghost potion is a must-have. But now moving on to level 36, Prepare for Terror. Monster Phobia. This level is a big ol' mess. One of those levels where I'd really like to be able to have a menu where you can just tag 2 weapons and items to alternate back and forth with using B and A respectively, but anyway, at the start, quickly save the soldier from the evil doll and the tourist to the left before they turn. Now hug the right wall and get that bazooka out to blast through a cobweb. Save the dog. And then continue on to save a teacher in this area. There's a first aid kit south of the teacher. It's just not worth it to try fighting these evil dolls. They duck underneath the bazooka, so it's useless against them in that sense. Now we can go left out the window, or just go back to the right like we did in Bazooka South and Having that radar up to locate your victims quickly is very helpful in this one, as the spider and the chainsaw guy would have gone for him, but blast through the wall here and then go to the right out here on top of the house to save this baby who's precariously dancing on the edge of the roof. Where's the parents of that baby? The explorer and the teacher, maybe? I don't know, but speaking of the explorer, get that weed cutter out to save him, then cut to the left of the balcony, blast through this wall, and then another couple windows to finally rescue the penultimate cheerleader. And then as we make our way up the corridor, let's go to Gary for tips on a boss who will be waiting for us. Gary?
Boss beater.
After trying a number of strategies against this boss, the most efficient method in terms of preserving your ammo and item stockpile is tank mode, provided you've got the Flamethrower. This boss will quickly litter the ground with sticky webs, which impair your movement speed, so the faster you can get up in his face and fire away with your Flamethrower, the better. Even if you're getting stuck, just keep up with him the best you can, and only fire when you're reliably sure you can make contact with his face, because as the professor said, we've only got one Flamethrower in the whole game. An alternate strategy is to set yourself up at the center of the bottom of the screen and time your shots for when the boss centers up for a split second each time. The problem with this is the boss sends little spiders at you at a decent clip, so drop a decoy on either side of the room as necessary to try to distract the spiders. Bazookas obviously work best with this strategy, but you can fall back to plates and silverware in a pinch. You can end up wasting a lot of ammo and ultimately take a lot of damage this way, which is why I prefer chasing him with the Flamethrower, which can typically take him down in less than 100 well-placed shots. Whatever method you use, good luck.
Thank you very much, Gary. And the reason I'm seemingly wasting Weed Whacker ammo right here is because that pickup is a double ammo, so that's worth 600, so that'll top us off from 400. There's a couple of those in the game for different weapons. There's a bazooka one, which is worth double a little bit later on, but yeah, it's kind of rare, but certainly welcome in this case if you are trying to clean up the floor. But now on to level 37, and you get your password here if you want to pick up from this point without all the hard-earned luxuries which we've accrued. Level 37, you'd think we could get a nice relaxing map after that last one, but that's not the case. It's mostly just one victim in serious peril here, but that doesn't mean this one's easy. Start out going right to get the baby, then left and north to save a cheerleader. And bazooka through the wall which just went up behind us for the shortcut, and go left to save a baby. Get your Pandora's boxes out as you head down below the spikes. If you got here fast enough, or you have a big enough horde of enemies on you, there might not be a zombie about to kill that cheerleader to the right. But yeah, when you get close, fire off that box just to be safe and rescue her if the zombies haven't gotten to her yet. That's one of the most dangerous victims to rescue in the entire game, for my money. Need to do a top 10 list. Just chronicling the most difficult victims in this game to save, but double back, grab the treasure, head south through the obfuscated opening and go all the way down, turn right at the bottom, going up and grabbing that monster potion, then up and left at the fork to rescue a baby with your weed killer, and back at the next opening to grab a first aid kit and eventually a Pandora's box. I'm going to leave the Frankenstein's monster for a second, heading up instead and saving the explorer to the left and the cheerleader on the right. Head down in the long passage to rescue a baby in the southeast corner behind some spikes. Then head up to save a soldier in the field. Use a popsicle on that slime monster there if you like. On the opposite field there's some treasure and another Pandora's box, which we can grab. But then head back up and around to lure the Frankenstein's monster to come up to you, where you can dismantle him with a weed killer or ancient artifact. And have to handle this vampire safely as well, so we don't want him going after the cheerleader by accident or otherwise. Let's lure him up here, the monster. Yeah, those Those electrical bolts there, if you get too low, those can end up taking out that cheerleader if you're not careful. Also note, obviously, the mystery potion in the room. And then there's one last Pandora's box to grab south of the final cheerleader. Right there. And yeah, that'll do it. We're moving on. Tricky level. Some of my least favorites when you just can't get the weapon I want right here. We have one last weapon to cover, actually, in the football. We have one last football stage coming up, so I guess we'll bring in Blaze to talk about that once we get there. But yeah, level 38 now. This is the relaxing level I was looking for. And the setting reflects that, as it's just a nice day at the beach. There's only one victim who's in serious peril, and that's a pool guy, of course. I'm starting to feel like it serves him right, continually kicking back and afloat with a cocktail in these incredibly dangerous situations. But yeah, it's another instance where a ghost potion makes everything much more efficient. First, grab the tourists on the northeast island. Don't need the potion for that. Then head back to where you started and go west, grabbing the Squirt Gun refill. Is anyone still using the Squirt Gun at this point in the game, by the way? Guess if you need some points, but staying away from the edge so as not to put the cheerleader in danger. Pound that ghost potion, and then grab her. Then navigate around the rock to get the soldier and bazooka. Cut down to the right to save the aforementioned pool guy. And grab the baby and some final tourists before heading to the southwest area. And grabbing a couple explorers. There's another one between the rocks to the north of that area. That's a little dangerous. I don't like that delay time it takes for the potion to wear off, either potion. We've also got the skeleton key in the form of another monster potion and a 1-up. For what it's worth, holding onto it lets you skip a battle with a snakeoid at the start of level 40, but considering I recommend using this monster potion for taking on that snakeoid, we're going to grab it just to make that battle easier. Might as well just use the key now to get the potion for later and get a 1-up out of it as well. Don't miss that first aid kit that we showed there. And then grab that baby in the northwest, and we are moving on to level 39. And this one isn't bad in the least, save for one potentially cheap victim death, so let's get those Pandora's boxes ready again. At the start, grab 2 ancient artifacts, then rush down and save the tourists before they turn. Again, make sure you have those Pandora's boxes out. Head right and get ready to tap X to ancient artifact a zombie who is right about to get that teacher right there. That is a dangerous one. Continue north, saving the baby, then going up to take on Frankenstein's monster. I like to wait at the door for the 2 vampires to catch up to me so my ancient artifacts can be used more efficiently, taking out all 3 at roughly the same time if possible. Taking out the vampires takes a while, but they give us extra artifacts at the start, plus it's just safer to not have to worry about them flying into a victim for the rest of the level. And Fluff, I'm told there's a special bonus we can get on this stage.
One more unique bonus. If you destroy all the vampires, as the title of this level suggests, which is actually just an underwhelming 2 vampires, you'll earn yourself the valuable Vampire Destroyed 9900 point bonus.
Thank you, Fluff, and it's not too satisfying when you take out the vampires that they just fly away. There's no explosion like you get with Frankenstein's monster. You'll find they circle you faster the closer they are to their version of death, which is, again, just running away, but anyway, after they're dealt with, grab the skeleton key and slip into the somewhat hidden area to the left of where we entered that room. Go through another passage and mow through to get a couple Pandora's boxes. We actually make out quite nicely with those on this level, but head back and up stairs and then down another set of stairs to save a baby and get 2 more Pandora's boxes. Now head up and save the explorer to the left, heading down the stairs and grabbing 2 more Pandora's boxes. Go up the waterway and exit left, going down and skipping the weed killer pickup for now. Right there, so we'll be using it right here. Grab a couple final Pandora's boxes, and then mow to the right where we can grab the cheerleader and the teacher up there with the medical kit. Then back up the waterway after we've grabbed ourselves that weed killer pickup. Now we're going to swim to the top and rescue a baby from a very dark situation. Locking up a baby in a bone-encrusted dungeon. Come on now. Now swim to the right to the open area to climb a small set of stairs and disappear into a hidden passage. I feel like I'm on Legends of the Hidden Temple here. Go up the stairs and use both of your skeleton keys to rescue the remaining 2 cheerleaders. And we are on to level 40. Heading into the final stretch here. I think I missed an ancient artifact there in that baby dungeon, actually. I was still overcome by the situation that poor baby found themselves in. I find those blend in with bones on the floor. Sometimes I miss 1 or 2 of those now and again. So just wanted to acknowledge that in case you were shouting, Professor, you missed the ancient artifacts. Especially knowing how much we love those. But level 40, more terror than before. Pyramid of Fear 2. I referenced this snakeoid battle at the end of level 30. First things first, grab the baby on the left and the tourists on the top right. They aren't too much at risk as long as you prioritize grabbing them quickly. Once you got them, if you didn't spend your skeleton key at the end of level 38, like I mentioned, you can skip fighting the snakeoid altogether and just go through the door. Otherwise, just pound a monster potion like the one we got for using that key, like I mentioned, and pound that snakeoid to a pulp to grab its key. Again, kind of pushing up into it once it surfaces out of the ground. Find that tends to make this battle a bit faster. Still wondering why the monster isn't a little bit tougher, you know? Takes way too many punches, even on those chainsaw guys, you know? You think those would go down with just a couple hits? Not the case, but yeah, I can't actually figure out how to use a key as the monster, so just gotta walk around awkwardly. Yeah, it's just some wackiness when it comes to being the monster. I don't know, just the timer doesn't always enforce the way that it should. The punches don't always get counted the way that they should. Just some of the zaniness that we love about this game, I suppose. That's what we'll chalk that up to, but anyway, yeah, save that pool guy and go to the left to save that explorer. Now we can go to the right and follow the wall up until there's a cut through, which takes you down to another explorer. And another cut through to the north for another explorer. Now work your way back to the main area and head all the way north until you find another skeleton door to use your most recent key on that we grabbed. Get a ghost potion handy on the walk up, actually, because as soon as we get to the edge of the water through the door, drink it and hurry across to save an explorer. This is one which I have not figured out how to save him without using that potion in this case, actually, so don't go too far to the left. Yeah, these squid men guarantee his demise if you try going the conventional route, just swimming through the water there. So after we save this explorer, we're going to double back to the right, ignoring the explorer that's right above us right there. Oof, that was close. Only way to do that. But now, ignore this ancient artifact. We'll come back for it. Grab this explorer very quickly, and then this pool guy here. Just too dangerous coming in. Even coming in from the left, those squid guys, they act fast, unfortunately, and it doesn't end well for any of the victims on this stage. So now we can head back, grab that ancient artifact. We're close there, and now we can save this final explorer, who's not in too much danger up there in the north for whatever reason, when he's in that little chamber. Just waiting for that door to spawn. There we go. But yeah, that first explorer, which we got after drinking that potion, and the pool guy are essentially impossible to reliably save. without using the potion because of how slow we are in the water, so that's the way to do it. Level 41, this one is pretty straightforward, and there's a ton of loot to be found, especially if you include the dozens of drawers and cabinets to check. At the start, go left and grab a key, then head south as we begin our clockwise sweep. There's some decoys and a fire extinguisher in this first house. If you blast through the bathroom wall, you can grab a 1-up on the right. Now work back through the house and exit going left. Get an alien gun in the yard here. Aliens were on top of it right there. Guess they got their own, so they're not worried about any refills. And blast through the bottom there to save that baby. Carry on to grab a couple plates, probably one of the few ammos we never acquired a lot of. And check the cabinets if you like. Careful about keeping other victims in the screen while you loot, like Taurus to the left, which in that case we needed to blast through to get to. Yeah, you never know who might be combing the area. I mean, it's going to be aliens. We know who it's going to be, but that was a gimme right there. You can see one warping in right next to that cheerleader. Just scrolled her off the screen, and now, like magic, she's alone. So much good loot here in this stage. Might be a record for things which we can open up and check. Always forget about these bathroom sinks, the mini ones there. A bit more camouflaged. There's a baby to the right in this house right here, and yeah, that's a little dangerous. I like to grab the baby first, as the aliens aren't as aggressive in going after victims as other enemies, but yeah, sometimes some stray fire will hit a victim, at which point the clock is running, so. Save the kid on the trampoline and loot the next door house if you like before blowing through the hedge to the right and saving a cheerleader. And through the fence next to it, there's a couple first aid kits actually, so very helpful for the cause. We're kind of falling behind a little bit. I think we had 16 at one point, maybe even more. Right back here. And you can see one in the house over here to the right. The next house has some ancient artifacts to grab. And if you blast through the bathroom wall, you can also get another monster potion. Not that we're hurting for those at this point, but couldn't hurt. Right back here. I don't know why, but it's especially satisfying taking out that bathroom wall. Maybe because you're taking out a lot of the tub as well with it, but. Lastly, blast through the hedge on the right to take you just above where you first started, where the last victim is Grillman. Don't miss the burger next to him. Before you leave, check the house above him to get a pair of speed shoes from the bathroom. And yeah, once again, this has been a very profitable stage of our journey. And we're moving on now to level 42. Level 42, Spikes. It's one of my favorite levels, and you'll see why right here. It's just a massive open room First things first, go south quickly from the start and save the tourists before they become werewolves in 8 seconds. And now this is one of my favorite levels because we can literally beat it in about 40 seconds using either a ghost or a monster potion. I recommend the latter obviously because, well, A, we have a bunch of them at this point, and B, it's helpful to punch your way to clear out some of these werewolves before they get to some of your victims. Just kind of clear out the area of werewolves in the vicinity before you move on to the next victim. But this is the route right here since you can't use your radar. How about that? That's got to be a record, right? The spikes are such a non-factor. Even if I wasn't using a potion, that would still be one of my favorite levels. But yeah, the potion makes everything so much easier on that one. Just knocking it out very quickly without losing anybody. Just be careful with how you manage those werewolves. But now, level 43, super fun cleanup site. Another gratifyingly easy level courtesy of a potion, this time one they give us, and then some. At the start, save the teacher in the house. Note there's some weed killer next to the house if you want to cut through the fence or go swimming. We're topped off though, so we're going to head north to save another teacher and a baby and a pool guy who seemed to have picked a relatively safe spot to float for a change, not counting the toxic waste. Follow the narrow path of land at the top of the screen around to save and explore, and quickly blast through the fence to get both ghost potions, and immediately use one. Heading southeast to save the tourists, and straight south to save the explorer. Southeast to save another pool guy, and the explorer right next to him, and then we should have enough left in the tank to go back to the left, straight west, to eventually save a dog. There's a key hidden behind that pod for what it's worth if you want to maximize your ghost potion like we did right there. Another easy one, and just using stuff which they gave us on the level, and then some, came out ahead in the ghost potion fund. Level 44 now. This level is all about taking the exact line which we show here. Doing so efficiently will result in minimal danger to both you and the victims. So at the start, go all the way to the top, saving the baby and popping in the dungeon to get another Pandora's box. Good for the baby to break out of jail this time. He's flaunting it with that little dance outside. Good for you, baby. But anyway, jump in the water and swim across up the stairs through the hidden Legends of the Hidden Temple-like passage to rescue the tourists. Sneaky. Now go back into the water and go down. Getting out at the small opening on the left to save and explore and get some coins before jumping back in the river and heading back down. Maybe swing as right as possible when jumping in the next river to keep the cheerleader on the left side of the screen off the screen just in case there's a squid man lurking around. That's why I skipped the Pandora's box until after we save her. Actually, I don't want to scroll the screen over there and invite a disaster there. Got a good run going. So grab that box, and now I'm going to go on the right side, going down, hug the wall, climb the stairs, and rescue another baby. And jump in the water and swim southeast to get out and get some coins. Maybe kill a squid man or two. Go right and through the door to rescue a pup, then go back to the other side of the wall and stick to the right side as you keep going up until you're in the lab. It's a weird combination of different environments here in this stage. Nature and the lab. All heck will break loose now with a vampire and Frankenstein's monster, but I'm not too concerned about fighting them. Just grab the Pandora's box on the right when you come out, then enter the opening next to the one you entered the lab from to save a teacher. Now go back into the lab, hugging the left wall to find a hidden area which leads you to a skeleton key. Right there. Grab it, then take the southwest exit down to save another teacher. Then follow the path up until you find a skeleton door, and then save the final cheerleader and grab the first aid kit as well. There's a bazooka in the pod along the way for what it's worth, but There you go, level 44 complete. Made it a lot easier by just sticking to that line the whole way through. And just 4 more stages at this point, class. You're getting close now. That was the last practical password there for getting to level 45. There's a lot of hidden stuff behind the trees to be found if you can get to it before the red ants. Speaking of which, get your alien blaster out. Well, after we get our bazooka out. This one's all about approaching the victims from the right angles, obviously not lingering with them on the screen at any point. Rescue the teacher up and to the left. There's some bazookas hidden behind the trees immediately on the other side when you start. Approach the cheerleader from the south to get her cleanly, then go around to save another teacher. There's a first aid kit immediately beneath her with the tree, and then you got the one up hidden behind the hedge there. Go south and to the right once you hit the bottom. There's some soda, a first aid kit, and some bazookas, and a mystery potion behind the trees. After that wall divide. Higher up there's a mystery potion, a red potion, and another one up again, all hidden behind the trees. You blast through this wall, you can get yourself a hidden monster potion behind the tree. There's a baby a bit to the left. And we can cut through an opening in the hedge, and there's a couple bazookas if you cut and blast through the thicker hedges in this area as well. Blast through this hedge here, and there's a baby up and to the right and a cheerleader to the left. There she is with some more weed killer there. Definitely don't be precious with your alien gun ammo at this point, but now we're going to go back around and cut to the left this time, going through the opening to save another cheerleader, kind of hidden behind the tree. That's the one time when I'm grateful for the jumping. And then kind of a weird way to get to this last victim, the soldier. Go down and right and then to the left through there. Grab some cash at the bottom if you like. And the last victim, the soldier, is up and around the wall. Right there. Level 46, once again we're going to be tapping into our monster potion surplus. If you're efficient, you can get through most of this level only having 2 of them, but yeah, they just make getting around so much safer and easier. Obviously, with all the chainsaw guys, we can cut our own path with the monster potion. You probably have, maybe not 11, but you probably have at least half a dozen, so to start pounding them. We won't need them too much after this, so the victims are generally safe so long as you don't linger and let the chainsaw guys get to them. In other words, be a proactive monster. Drink that potion at the start and go north through the hedge to get some bazookas, and head west to save a teacher. And go through a couple more hedges to the left and down a couple to break into an enclosed hedge which has one of 2 skeleton keys we'll need. Keep going left, grabbing a bazooka and saving the Taurus on the top left. Re-up your potion as necessary. Now we're going south, breaking through the fence next to the house to get the other skeleton key, which we'll need. Immediately break through the hedge below you to continue on. And then down and around to save that baby. Now go back to the fenced area and go to the right and around down to save an explorer. Trapped in a hedge. There's an explorer trapped in a hedge right there, just kind of on his own, so that's a new one, I think. Got some tourists down to the right here. And then we have another explorer northwest of those. I think it's a bit more, there it is, to the left. Save him. Now we're going to the southeast corner, and then straight up to save a soldier, and then saving the last 2 victims who are behind these locked doors here. There you go. 2 levels to go. In this next one, to save all the victims, we need to take down 3 snakeoids. So Monster Potion will be the play once again. More shocking than level 46. Level 47, Gridiron Terror. At the start, save a few victims, mostly cheerleaders, near your starting position at the top. Just kind of clear out the area, trying to stay away from victims otherwise. And now, pound one of our monster potions and deal with these snakeoids here. Just battle these things for 3 skeleton keys. And then, yeah, otherwise, no one else is in danger, really. Just once we take out these things, just football players. Which aren't really any danger to anyone, except bouncing us around. But, yeah, don't forget the bonus which Fluff mentioned earlier, the pass completion bonus. I think that was worth 5,000 points, but, yeah, tossing 10 footballs successfully to 10 players. Pretty much the only use for him, actually. Let's bring in Blaze to talk about the footballs now.
Mostly just here to take up inventory space for your weapon slots. Just another one you have to scroll through to get to the weapon you really want. The footballs do virtually no damage. Kind of like how the soda pop is used to take down the alien spaceship. You get points from that. Well, you can use the football to earn yourself the Pass Completion Award. Get that bonus right there. But other than that, kind of useless unless you're trying to take out a zombie. It's not going to be too much use to you.
Thank you, Blaze. I had my suspicions. I think I made that clear. Just one final level after this class, and how about you stay away from that cheerleader? That's the problem with not having that map up there. I like what Fluff mentioned in the Sega Genesis version, where you have that map up constantly on the screen. That's nice. Unless maybe it disappears when you drink a potion. I do not know. Don't have a whole lot of experience with the Sega Genesis version. That was close. There we go. We'll take it. Alright, now just gotta clean up with what's left. Just oblivious to the destruction to the field. Do you think they would notice that at least, you know? Maybe not the snakeoids popping out, but the effect it had on the field. At least give me that. But we have a very nice war chest of items, of weapons we can now call upon for this final battle, this final level. The final boss. Yes, don't think I'm giving anything away to reveal that there is, in fact, a final boss here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors. We'll see what Gary has to say about it once we get there. It's got a couple more victims left. See that monster potion in the top right there. Doing pretty well in bazookas, I have to say. Sure that'll come in handy for the final boss. You might want to get your speed shoes out, by the way, before you go through the exit door at the end of this level, for what it's worth. We're going to be needing it to save some tourists in the final level, just a heads up. Make sure we go into this final battle with full health, just waiting to make sure no more threats around here. By which I mean, any of those purple monsters popping out of... There you go. That's what I was waiting for. Alright. Still giving me an F. I've saved your life about 1,000 times, teacher. Still giving me an F. About an E for effort. How about that? I think I know how we can turn one of those Fs into an E, actually. Not sure that's going to fool anyone, though. Least of all our parents, who I assume exist. I don't know. Maybe the zombies got them. No, the zombies ate the neighbors, not the co-residents of our own home. But anyway, I digress. Curse of the Tongue, the final level here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors. There's a skeleton key right up there with some treasure, but pop those speed shoes on and follow this track right here, saving that dog. Then the teacher. And then there's a hidden opening right through here. Ignore that cheerleader for now. And then grab these tourists down here, and then the ones up and to the left right here. So if you grab those before, I guess it's the 38 seconds, then you can save everyone on this level, assuming you can take down the final boss, of course. Extra pair of shoes is optional there, but figured might as well use them. We have them just to save that baby and cheerleader a little bit faster with the mummies and the zombies walking around. And gonna handle the vampire and Frankenstein's monster here before we head to the west and save another victim. Just make sure they're not complicating things. We just have a treasure trove of these Pandora's boxes at this point. They'll be useful on the final boss, but I don't think we need 30 of them, so. Alright. Vampire dealt with. Let's safely come down here aside from some werewolves which might be hopping around. Save the baby. Well, let's lure him over here before we save this cheerleader here. So now we just have the cheerleader in the bottom left, and we have the cheerleader which is behind the final boss's door. So I'm just gonna, since we don't need this for the rest of the game, just make this a nice relaxing stroll back to the southwest corner of the map with my ghost potion. So relaxing. I'll tell you, that laugh's not getting annoying. I did not mean to use that time, actually. Still hitting the wrong buttons here on the final level. Here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors. And we just gotta wait for this to wear off. It'd be foolish to go down there and actually try to save the cheerleader right now, given that this werewolf is walking around. So let's make sure we put him down first before we go down there and rescue the penultimate victim. Well, for this level. I won't give anything away, but for this level. Alright, so now get your health topped off, get those Pandora's boxes out, and for tips on taking down the final boss here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors, Gary, take us home.
Boss beater.
Alright, the final boss in Dr. Tongue. This first half plays very similar to fighting the giant spider earlier on. As such, you've got the same couple strategies that I recommended earlier. Getting in close with the flamethrower, especially at the start, chasing the spider around with headshots. Alternatively, you can use the bazooka from the corner, using decoys to distract the little spiders, or Pandora's boxes to both deal damage to the boss and clear out the little spiders. This strategy obviously requires less movement, not to mention you can keep the floor relatively devoid of webs for the second phase. Once you've dealt enough damage, you'll reach Dr. Tongue's second and final phase. His line of tongue attacks aren't too difficult to avoid, and again the flamethrower is the weapon of choice here. With the bazooka again, you can situate yourself in the corner if you're low on or out of flamethrower. Once you do enough damage, the doctor begins to fire eyeballs at you, so have some of those Pandora's boxes out to stack some extra damage and clear the eyeballs while you continue to chase him with the flamethrower. It's worth mentioning, you can also set up in the top right corner by the spiral electricity conductor thing, as the boss will oftentimes just bounce back and forth, up and down, allowing you to time and fire your projectiles of choice, whether they be bazooka, silverware, or plates in that order, when he reaches the top, or you can just aim diagonally down from here for a slightly higher probability shot when he's moving like that. There's practically nothing after this, so let's run through those ammo reserves, and do enough damage, Dr. Tongue will go down, and congratulations, you have beaten Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Thank you, Gary. Can't smoke them yet, but this is a good spot right here. I like this. Yeah, I've tried tank mode, which this is, we'll probably switch to that here in a moment once we get bored. But this is relatively safe, certainly with the Pandora's boxes. Just make sure, once you get down to about 2 health or so, make sure you top yourself off again. Yeah, this is nice. The webs definitely complicate things, make getting around much more difficult, so I like this. Keeping a clean dance floor, as Gary mentioned. This might take a while. Let's go to Fluff for one last Fluff fact about Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
I've got a very anticlimactic hack/cheat for you here at the end of the game, Professor, while you continue to wear down Dr. Tongue. But it's actually possible to beat this game without even fighting him. All you need to do is show up to this stage with at least 2 victims still alive. To do this, get the vampire to follow you, but never fight or defeat him. Go ahead and rescue all the victims, minus the one in the top left, which is inaccessible until you defeat Dr. Tongue. With the vampire still chasing you, grab all those skeleton keys and go to the battle arena for Dr. Tongue, heading to the northwest corner. Let the vampire keep attacking you until he kills you once, at which point he'll focus on the cheerleader on the other side of the wall and kill her. With the final victim killed, as you come back on your next life, the exit door will appear as usual, allowing you to skip having to deal with Dr. Tongue at all and go straight to the credits level.
Thank you very much, Fluff. Very sneaky. I like it. I think I'd be more inclined to try that if we hadn't painstakingly worked our way through 48 plus levels of this game. Maybe if you used the password to get to level 45 and somehow made it past those final few levels, that'd be a tough out actually, but certainly an easier way of taking on this final boss, by which I mean not taking on the final boss. Just reaching into our bag of tricks here, playing a little loose, admittedly. It's been a long class. I hope you'll forgive me here for dispensing with a bit more skill and strategy here, just going for the W, falling back on our ridiculous supply, our now dwindling supply. Still have tons of plates, silverware. Just gonna time these shots right here. This is where you need to be able to dual wield weapons in this game. You know, have one button for the bazooka, have another button for, say, your ancient artifacts. Just kind of bounce back and forth between those two without having to switch. Just use them both on demand. That would be nice. As I, again, pitch ideas for a game which was released over 30 years ago. Might be a fool's errand right there, but still. If nothing else, we can open a restaurant supply shop here at the end of this one. There you go. With all the plates and the silverware which we've accrued over this course of this game, but the final cheerleader. And we're not quite done yet, class. There's one last kind of bonus stage here, but let's get all of our stats. Very satisfying. Probably not as many kills as it counts up all the different monsters we've taken down. Quantifies each one. Probably not nearly as many as you'd see in another playthrough of this game, or even your playthrough, as, again, we weren't going for taking down extra enemies when we didn't have to. We weren't grinding for points necessarily. This is far and away the luckiest run I've ever had here in Zombies Ate My Neighbors. I said it at the top. To do well in this game, the final Briggs note, be lucky, and that's what we were today. Walking away with, I think the only victims which we lost were the ones which are literally impossible due to just the way the game is set up, so we'll happily take that. That's how you save everybody that you're able to say you just saved, or just took down 2 of those chainsaw guys. 10 of the whatever the instruction manual called them. Just call them squid men after the level. Aliens went down relatively easily with their initial gun right there, the Squirt Gun. Didn't take out a lot of those mushrooms. It just slows you down a lot of times when you're aiming for enemies, when you should just be making a beeline for a lot of the victims in most cases. With some exceptions, as we showed over the last 2+ hours of this class. The rarer red ants there. Took out most of the Frankenstein's monsters. Few werewolves. Okay, 30. most of the vampires as well. Pods, took out a few of those. And the tentacles, of course. In this run, we did not go to the Day of the Tentacle stage, but still showed it nonetheless. But there you go. You are winner. And this will stay on this screen until you actually hit a button. Just soaking it all in, class. This was, as I mentioned at the top, this... it surprised me how much work went into this class relative to some games which I would expect would take a lot more time. But now we're on the secret final level, the credit level right here, and we can still lose victims, so I'm going to treat this like any other level actually and try to keep everyone alive. It's just not quite as dangerous as the lights are going down here, and we'll give everyone their love after we saved all the victims. I think these tourists can still change given enough time, so we'll get to take out a tentacle or two in this run after all, it seems. Just as soon as... Here we go. Eat plate. Ooh, don't touch my pup. I think they refer to him as the boss, just floating head. Going around checking to make sure everyone's doing their job. Alright, there we go. Now we can give everyone their love here. Sean Turner, assistant animator. Yet another sign of the wackiness of the developers, the sense of humor which they've got here. There's the Fat Man. George Sanger of Team Fat, and there's Joe McDermott, which Fluff mentioned. Dave Warhol, all names which are familiar with some of the names from the credits on Maniac Mansion. The sound department, certainly. Guess that's meant to be a takeoff on Indiana Jones, but it's got the whip, and LucasArts obviously. It looks more like the Terminator to me for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, that is our time this week, and then some, class. Thank you so much for attending. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to enroll in Video Games 101. We do one of these classes every single week in the same spot. Love to have you enrolled. We did find Dr. Bug in that bonus stage, actually. Click that like button too if you don't mind. Really does help us out to make future classes for you. And leave a comment. What do you think the most difficult stage in this game is, or the most difficult victim to rescue? And again, did you play the sequel to this in Ghoul Patrol or any of the games which also run on this game's engine? But that's our time this week. We'll see you next week in the same spot for next week's class right here on Video Games 101. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. And check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.